If you're a nurse who feels guilty saying no, if you're the one that always says yes, always stays late, and you always feel like you're running on empty, well, you're not alone. And more importantly, there is hope. Today, we're going to be talking about boundaries, what they are, why they matter, and how they can literally change your life, your energy, and your work. And then make sure that you stick around until the end because I'm going to be sharing with you some simple boundary scripts that can really help, plus a quick challenge to help you start practicing these skills right away, like today. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Katie Stevens, RN, founder of Katie Stevens Consulting, and I've been a nurse for 20 years, and I've served in many different roles, everything from the bedside to the executive suite. And I will be the first one to admit that boundaries have been really hard for me to develop over the years. I was that nurse who many times stayed late, said yes to everything, was always on, always available. And for a long time, I actually wore all of that like a badge of honor. But eventually I started to realize that something had to change. And I started to realize that one of the most important things that I could do in caring for other people was to really start caring for myself. What I started to realize is that whenever I was rested, whenever I was grounded, and when I was really fully present, I was at my best and people got the best of me. And what I also realized is that whenever I was running on empty constantly, when I was running on fumes, no one got the best of me, not my patients, not my family, not the team, and certainly not me. One of the things that I love about nursing is that it is rooted in compassion and service and really the willingness to sacrifice for others. I think that that's really beautiful. But what I will tell you is that when service turns into self-neglect, when compassion becomes codependency, we've started to cross a line. I see so many brilliant, dedicated, and loving nurses who are really constantly overfunctioning, and we tell ourselves that we can handle it. But behind the scenes, there's a lot of fatigue, there's some resentment, and there's a lot of burnout. So now here's the hard truth, is that being a good nurse does not mean being endlessly available to everyone. It doesn't mean saying yes to everything. It doesn't mean carrying everybody else's stress or skipping every bathroom and lunch break like you're a martyr or that's noble. That kind of constant giving really comes at a cost. It costs your energy, it costs your peace and your joy, it can cost your relationships, and sometimes it can cost yourself. So with all of that, let's talk about what boundaries really are, because I think that many of us were never really clearly taught. And I will tell you that learning how to set boundaries has been really a game changer in my own life. So a boundary is a decision that you make. It's a limit that you set to protect your time, your energy, your values, and your well-being. Now, I want to be clear here. This is not a rule for someone else. It's really about taking responsibility for yourself. It's a decision that you make, that we make about what is or is not okay. And also, what you will do if a line is crossed. So boundaries, again, are not about controlling other people. They're really about taking responsibility for your own needs and actions. So here's a simple formula that can help. So a boundary equals a clear limit plus a clear follow-up action. So if you've ever studied math, logic, or even some basic problem solving, you may have heard the, if-then statements. So if this happens, then I will do that. That's exactly what a boundary is. So if a certain limit is crossed or a decision that I have made, if that is crossed, then I will take action to protect my well-being. So let's talk about a few examples. So here's an example of this in action. So if I'm contacted about work on my day off, then I won't respond until I'm back on the clock. So another example of this could look like if a conversation becomes toxic or disrespectful, then I will remove myself from the situation or from the conversation. So notice the shift here. Instead of saying like, I need you to stop texting me on my day off, it instead becomes, if I get work messages on my day off, I will respond when I'm back. It's really clean, it's calm, and it really puts the responsibility exactly where it belongs, back on me or you, the one that's setting that boundary. So again, this is not about trying to control someone else's behavior. It's really about being clear with yourself and with other people, and then following through on what you said really matters to you. So let's bring this into the real world. What might some of these boundaries look like? So it could be not answering work messages on your day off, like we just talked about. It could be leaving on time when your shift ends and not feeling guilty. It could be saying something like, hey, I'm not available for extra shifts this week, and really letting that be enough. It could also be something like, saying to a coworker kindly, like, hey, can we talk about this later? I really need to use my break to recharge. The important thing to recognize here is that setting healthy boundaries are really how we stay sustainable in a profession where the work never stops. Things are going on and there are needs 24/7, 365. So what that means is that we have to be the ones that really step up and say, hey, that's enough for today. I've done my thing. Now, if words are hard, and I get it because often they are, here are a few simple scripts that you can use that can come in really handy. So you could say something like, I can't commit to that right now, but here's what I can do. The second one is, hey, I need to take my break, so let's circle back up afterward. Another one is, I don't have the capacity for that today, but maybe later. Or how about, I want to give that my full attention, so let's revisit that when I'm available. The important thing to know here is that you don't have to justify and you don't have to over-explain. So here's something to reflect on. We teach people how to treat us by what we allow. When we constantly say yes, people assume that we're always available. When we stay late without a word, it just becomes the expectation. When we answer texts on our day off, we're basically saying that my time isn't really mine. But you can choose differently. So think about the messages that you're sending out to your colleagues, to your leadership, to your family, and then, of course, even to yourself. Are the messages you're sending out, are they consistent with the life that you're called to live, with the kind of wellness that you're called to protect? So here's your challenge for this week. Pick one boundary, just one, and commit to honoring it. Maybe it is taking your full lunch break. Maybe it is putting your work phone on Do Not Disturb after 8 p.m. It could be setting a no work talk rule at the dinner table. So start small, start where you are, and if it helps, ask someone that you trust to help you stay accountable to this. I know that for some of you, this may feel a little awkward or even scary at first. It's okay. It did for me too. But boundaries are practice. So you don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. And I know it is not always easy. I am still learning as well, but boundaries really are how we stay in this work for the long haul. It is how we continue to show up with integrity. It is how we steward our energy wisely. And it is really how we honor our calling without destroying ourselves in the process. So start with just one, practice, adjust, and keep going. And if you're wondering why so many nurses are struggling with burnout and why this boundary work really matters so much, check out our video on why addressing wellness is no longer optional for nurses. In that video, we really share some simple, practical steps that you can take to start prioritizing your own wellness today.